Hello, it's Dennis again. Pretty cold day out, so I thought I'd give you catch us up. Well, that's what I want to do. I want to catch us up. I don't have any of the kudzu cousins with me today, so mostly just catching up. What I want to show you is this list we got here. I don't know if you can see this too well, but this is going to catch us up where we're at with the generations of Shem, which Jeremy sang about. So I noticed a few things here doing my Bible studies. We got Noah, and then we had Shem, Ham, and Japheth, were his kids that he brought with him and their wives, on the flood. So that's where we started. So then Shem had Archipald. We're just going to go down the straight line to Abram, because Abram becomes a very important person. It is 10 generations since Noah. So we had Shem, Archipald, Shelah, Abor, Peleg, Ru, Shirug, Nahor, Terah. And Terah had Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Now, this is covered in Genesis 10 and a little bit in Genesis 11. By this point, I did some math here, exponential math. I come out with, we have at least 26 million people on the earth by the time of Abram, which was 297 years after the flood, the best I can figure. And now Abram married this girl Sarai. I'm not really sure where she's from. It's S-A-R-A-I. I'm calling her Sari. I'm not really sure how that was pronounced. And Abram's brother Nahor married Milcah, which was his niece. Now there are 27 million people here on earth, at least. And the guy's marrying his niece, who is the sister of Lot. Now, Abram and Lot are pretty much where we go into Genesis 12. Now, one thing I did notice is that the lifespans of people have been decreasing greatly over the last 10 generations. Now, Noah was 950. His son Shem lived to 600. Now, Shem had his first son at the age of 100. Now, that's important later on. So you remember that Shem had his first son at the age of 100. And then we go down, and by the time we get to Terah, he is only 205 years old when he passes. And he was 70 years old when he had his first son. Now, his father Nahor had Terah at the age of 29, which Terah was actually a little bit of an oddball coming through here, because most of them, they had their children up between 30 and 35. But then Nahor was the youngest to die of those generations. It was Terah's father. He died at the age of 148. And you'll notice, the earlier they had children, be it a year or two, it took a century off their lives. So that says a lot to the demands of having children back then. So where we're at now, we're going through the Bible, the Holy Bible, and once again we're on thing to Gideon's. Now, what's happening here at the end of Genesis 11 and going into 12? Now, people are getting hungry. There's a famine going on in the land. And God came down to Abram and he said, Abram, you got to split from your dad. You take your wife and you just go, and if you do so, if you follow my commands, I will give you riches beyond belief, children beyond belief, and food and everything else you need. Now, where Abram was troubled is Sarai, his wife, was barren. She couldn't have no kids. So they had taken on Lot. Now Lot is his nephew, and he was like, hey Lot, God's promised me all this, we just got to take off. So they do, and they wander around, and they stop places that look nice, and God would come and say, Abram, now this is a good spot. You should settle this area, and all your descendants that settle this area, I will bless. So Abram stopped a couple times along the way and set up altars to God. And he and Lot and Sarai moved on. But the famine continued. The famine really, really was continuing. And, they were hungry. There wasn't a lot to eat. But in Egypt, there wasn't a famine at that time. So, good old Abram, he decides that he's going to take Sarai into Egypt with him. But Sarai's a hot chick. She was barren, so, she wasn't all messed up by having children or nothing. So he goes into Egypt and he's thinking to himself, he's like, wow, man, I'm going in here, and these people, I don't really know them. I got this hot wife. They'll probably just kill me, and then Pharaoh will take my wife for his own. So now, Abram thought to himself, he said, well, how do I get around this? That's who decided to tell Sarai to pretend she was his sister. I know it sounds funny, I guess they couldn't do any hanky-panky because that would have looked suspicious, even though Abram's brother was married to his niece and all. But, so they go in there and he's like, hey, Pharaoh, check out my sister. And the Pharaoh's like, yeah, she's kind of hot. Well, it would be nice for you to get in good with her. Right? But there was only one problem. See, here at the start of Genesis 12, God had made a promise to Abram. And I will bless those who bless you, and the ones who curses you, I will curse. So, Pharaoh, he's hitting on Sarai, I guess he's taking her to the movies, and, Olive Garden probably, the good places they had. And so he takes her out, and wines and dines, and she's like, no. But then something terrible starts happening to the Pharaoh. Look at this. Genesis 12. Genesis 12, 17. But the Lord struck Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And so the Pharaoh, he's like, what? Whoa. God had let the Pharaoh know that he was being plagued because he was messing with another man's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram, what is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister so that I took her for my wife? Now then, here is your wife, take her and go. So the Pharaoh, he wisened up and he was like, look, man. He went to God and he was like, man, look, I had nothing to do with this. God lied to me. I saw this hot chick. I treated her nice. I brought her into my home, made her my wife. And I set her family up right. Her brother living high in the hog. And here I get cursed because of this man's lie to me. You know where that comes into play here in the modern days? Statutory rape. Yeah, statutory rape. See, like, if you're messing with, like, a high school girl, and you get caught, you can't say, oh, she told me she was 18. No, you can't say that. That ain't gonna happen. Well, in Kentucky, you can do it still, but not anywhere else, up there in the northern states, you get in big trouble, and ignorance of the law is no excuse, as they say, which is saying that Pharaoh found out, and so we know ignorance of the law is no excuse, is a term of God. So Abram moved on, and good old Lot went with him. But you know, the land that they settled was still not rich. The famine had been continuing. And Abram finally said, look, man, there's just not room here for the both of us. I don't mean ill will, but you got to move along. You take your herds and your people, and you move along, because this land there ain't enough for both of us. And I know my herdsmen and your herdsmen getting angry with each other. So I said, all right, that's all right, Uncle. I thank you for what you've done for me. And Lot moved on. And Lot moved to the city of Sodom. Now, what we know about Sodom is that the men were wicked, exceedingly, and sinners against the Lord. We find that in Genesis 13:13. Now, the Lord came again to Abram and told him that everywhere he could see, that land was his. Where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward. For all the land which you see, I will give it to you, and to your descendants forever. Arise, walk about the land through its length and breadth, for I will give it to you. So Abram did. And he wandered those lands, and he built altars to the Lord, and his descendants forever were to own that land. That leaves us at Genesis 14, which we'll get to another day. But now we have caught up. Now we know where people were, and we know the tricks that Abram played on the Pharaoh. And what we want to take from Genesis 12 and 13, be careful. Don't always trust other people, especially if they're from the land of Sodom, where they are exceedingly wicked. So thank you. This was a quick one. This just wanted to catch you up. We just wanted to give you where we're at. Remember, we are 300 years after the flood, 10 generations after Noah. And that 10th great-grandson, Abram, has been chosen by God. Thank you. Have a good day. Hey, sorry, let's get out of here. No wheat for bread, no grain for my beer.